Hi, today we're talking to Kirsty from Surrey. Hi, Kirsty, how are you?
Hi, Sheelagh. I'm good, thank you. I just wanted to let you know about my stroke. I was 54 years old when I had my stroke, and it was just it was 1st of July 2020. Everybody else was concentrating on COVID, but I just decided to go and have a stroke instead. But I did end up in the ICU ward with lots of other COVID patients round about me, and I just have in the back of my mind a very vague recollection of lots of people coughing and spluttering and wheezing to breathe and talking about oxygen tanks and what have you. Because the ward I was in, it was the ICU, but it was right outside the main ward for COVID. So all the other patients in the ward with me were basically waiting to go into the COVID ward for the doors to be sealed again and what have you. So we were, my husband and I were working from home. Well, I wasn't actually working because I'd been a swimming instructor for 20 years. So all the swimming pools were shut, obviously. And so initially I thought when the pools were shut, I thought it was going to be for about 2 weeks. And I thought, how am I going to survive for 2 weeks with no work, no swimming? Because that's what really kept me going, kept me lively, kept me active mentally and physically. And I thought, how am I going to do 2 weeks without this? And I used to cycle to work as well. I didn't drive. So I would cycle about 100 miles a week just commuting to work.
Wow.
And then the teaching swimming was quite physical as well. And that's what kept me lively and kept me active. And I thought, how am I going to manage for 2 weeks without teaching? So my husband and I were both at home. He was working. And I went downstairs to make lunch. I was sitting doing a jigsaw, just whiling away my life doing a jigsaw. Went down to make some lunch. And I went to take a drink of water, and the water dribbled down the left side of my mouth. And I thought, that's a bit strange, but didn't think anything more of it. Took some more water, same thing happened again. And so we had a downstairs loo nearby with a little mirror in it. So I went through there and looked at my face, and I realised that it was dripping down this side. I mean, I felt fine, but I suddenly realised something was wrong. So I went back through to the lounge. So I was walking all the time. I didn't collapse at all. And I just shouted up to my husband and I said, something's wrong. I said, something's not right here. And so he came down. And again, because it was COVID, he said, do you want me to phone an ambulance? I said, no, don't phone 999, because they're too busy and what have you. And I couldn't remember the other number to call. And he saw me, and it must have been my face or something, because again, I was still standing. And he said, no, I'm calling 999. So he called them, and I could hear the conversation going on. And I knew what was happening. I didn't have a headache, I didn't collapse or anything, but I was shouting at the phone saying, I'm having a stroke, I'm having a stroke. And so they asked him to do a couple of tests, get her to stand with her hands up in front of her at shoulder height, and then tell her to then let go of her hands and see what happens. So he let go of my hands, and my left one just went straight down, just blocked straight down. And he told them what had happened. And so they said, right, we'll be right there. And again, we were quite lucky at the time. There's that word lucky again. I've used it. So I have been lucky throughout this whole experience. Of course, it's been unfortunate, but I have been lucky in some respects. We lived right across the road from the hospital, Epsom General Hospital. And so the paramedics came, and one of the paramedics joked to me, and she said, that's the shortest blue light journey I've ever had to do. And so they triaged me on the spot and then said, right, yes, we're going to a hospital. And I could hear them on the radio, suspected stroke, ETA 2 minutes. And so they actually, I walked out of the house, and we had about 10 steps at the front of the house that were quite steep. But the paramedic just took my arm and we walked down the steps, which I can't believe now, because I'm 2 years, well, not quite 2 years, but almost 2 years later, I'm still sort of learning to walk. But when I was still possibly having a stroke, I actually walked down these really steep steps. And once they got me into the ambulance, I remember turning around and saying to my husband, don't forget to lock the back door as well, the cat's outside. And if you're coming to the hospital, can you bring my laptop and, my water bottle or what have you? So I'm still shouting instructions from the back of the ambulance to him. So again, I was very lucky that I was very aware about all these things. But subsequently, what happened was I got to the hospital, and yes, I was assessed again, and my blood pressure was crazy. It was something over 200. And they said, I found out later on that apparently it took them half an hour with medication to get my blood pressure down to a decent level. And then they took me into the operating theatre, and apparently I had a clot on one side, so they took that out. And then afterwards, they did another scan on me, and they realised I had a bleed on the other side. So I was back in the ambulance, blue lighted up to St George's Hospital for more emergency surgery. And I was completely unaware of all this going on, although I've still got a few fantastic hallucinations in my head of what went on. That's a different story, but some of these hallucinations were fantastic. At St George's Hospital, there's a wonderful cocktail bar that I went to. I sat at the cocktail bar and had a couple of glasses of wine while I was waiting to be taken back through to my bedroom. I've told one of my friends about this cocktail bar in St George's Hospital, and she's going, "Oh, I've never been there." And I'm going, "It's not there, it's in there."
Sounds wonderful, though.
There's a lovely glass of wine, because it was a really hot summer day. July 2020 was quite hot, but the glass of wine went down very well. And so I was in the ICU ward there for 2 weeks. My husband wasn't allowed to come and see me, obviously, because of COVID. And but they were very good at St George's apparently, and told him, they were asking me if I had any requests. So I wanted notepads and colouring pens and to be brought in, and so he did that every day. And then eventually, apart from these weird hallucinations, I've got no memory of being in there. I vaguely remember having to try and swallow feeding tubes. That may have happened, it may not, I really don't know. But then I came back to Epsom General Hospital and started doing physio in there. So again, I was very lucky that there was an excellent physio team there. That and when they realised that I'd had quite an active life beforehand, like some of my friends who were messaging me and saying, "Kirsty, you were so active and so fit, you'll be back on your bike in no time at all." And now I realise it doesn't matter how active or fit you were, a lot of that can just disappear in that instance. And so I was sort of almost starting to grieve them, because I didn't have any gauge. I had no previous experience of anybody having a stroke, so I didn't know any better. So in my innocence, fortunately I had innocence, my brain was still working, even though it was being held in my head by 43 staples apparently. Fortunately, luckily my brain was still working, and I was going to say stupidly, but it was just naively actually believed that I'd be back on my bike soon, And so when physios came up to speak to me and say, do you want to go and do some physio? You want to go down to the gym? I'm thinking, what sort of workout is this going to be? My left arm, and it still is fairly useless. And I'm not allowed to say that to my left hand. I'm not allowed to tell it it's useless. That's bad for it. You're a good hand, aren't you? Just not working yet. So I apparently did very well in the hospital physio gym, what have you. And luckily there was a cottage hospital that did physio rehab near where I lived in Epsom. So because I was responding quite well to the physio in the hospital, they said that they'd found a bed for me in the physio rehab cottage hospital. So I got moved out to there after about 6 weeks. And so I was getting physio there every day, and speech and language therapy as well. And I was seeing a neuropsychologist, but none of this was really explained to me. I remember when I first went into the neuropsychologist, I said to him, "Why do I have to see you? What's wrong with me? Why do I need to see a neuropsychologist? Right before I say anything, please explain to me why I'm here." And I did virtually the same with the speech therapist. I said, "Everybody seems to be understanding me. Why do I have to speech and language therapy sessions?" And so a lot wasn't explained to me properly. And I don't know how much was explained to my husband. We actually haven't really got through all of those conversations yet as to how he was looked after and how he was treated, how much information he got. He did was asked the question apparently at St George's along the lines of, when he did ask about the operation, they said, "Well, if we don't operate, she probably won't make it. If we do operate, she may make it." So that was about as much as information, because it's a difficult conversation to have, for me to have with him, to find out how much information he had as well. And So yeah, I just went and started questioning people. Okay, Mr. Neuropsychologist, what am I doing here? What's wrong with me? What are you going to do to make it better if there is something wrong with me? And same with speech and language. And so I'm speaking very quickly here. This is speech and language. I have to remember now to slow down and remember to breathe. Breathing is quite important for human beings, apparently. I found that out, so I need to learn to breathe. Yeah. See, as a swimming instructor, I should know that, because in the water, breathing is very important as well. So excuse me while I breathe. So yeah, I spent 6 weeks in the neuro rehab hospital, and then had a funny turn and ended up back in Epsom General Hospital again. And I was begging to be discharged. It was coming up to our 32nd wedding anniversary, and I really wanted to be out. I thought we were going to be partying and whatever for our wedding anniversary, not fully taking in how badly the brain damage and how physically affected I had been. Although I was obviously aware of that, having to wear nappies, and be helped to the toilet and what have you. I was aware of how bad it was, but I thought, yeah, go back for our wedding anniversary, and we can cook dinner and party. But so I think I got discharged. I'm going to sound a bit disingenuous to the staff there, but I was possibly discharged because I was annoying them so much. They were looking after me really well, and all I was saying is, I want out of here. I want to go home. I don't want to be in here. These poor people are spending all day looking after me, doing the best that they can for me. And all I'm saying is, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And I think one of the best bits of advice I was given from one of the nurses there was, just remember, Kirsty, when you go home, your home is exactly the same as it was when you left 3 months ago. But you're not the same as you were 3 months ago. You need to get to know your home again. It's a completely different place now. When you go back, it'll be completely different. I'm like, got 10 steps to walk up to my front door. I can't even go to the toilet by myself in the hospital, but I was invincible. Nothing was going to affect me. So they eventually discharged me, and I got home, and that was. I now realise that in hospital and in rehab, that was one battle that I had got through, and I had won there. But getting back home, that was still another one, another steep mountain, that had to be faced and climbed and what have you. And with my poor husband as well. And we were very fortunate, actually, with it being COVID, that he was having to work from home. So in a lot of ways, COVID, in some ways, was quite fortunate. It was quite lucky timing, because he was able to work from home, so continue working, continue earning. And for him, I think it was good as well, because he had something else to concentrate, not just on me and my demands, because he really enjoys his job, and the fact that he could do it from home, and just listening out for, poor guy, for the best part of 2 years, I don't think he's slept properly, because he's just listening and waiting to hear my stick crash on the floor. I think, oh God, what's she done now? And have to run and come and pick me up again. So this is one big issue that I have with post-stroke, is making sure that the family and the friends are looked after as well. It took me about a year to realise that it wasn't just me that suffered the stroke. It was my husband, my 2 sons, my mother, my 2 sisters, and my friends, some of them now ex-friends, that had to cope with me having a stroke as well. So I think that's a very important thing, that we have to remember the other people round about. And my husband used to cook a lot as well, but I mean, now I try and cook at least once a week, but I have to be very careful, and I've developed lots of different techniques with my stroke. It's amazing. He's 6'4" and I'm 5'4", so we've moved house since, so the house has all been rearranged, so all the pots and pans and things are up high, so use my stick, they're all up so they're convenient for him. But my ethos originally was, it's very difficult, because you have to set yourself little goals and little targets, and they have to be little ones, because my idea of getting back on my bike and getting back to teaching swimming. I realise now that that was Mount Everest really, and I have to start on the foothills first and get over them to make sure that they are easy. So being able to get up at night and go to the toilet by myself and get back again, that's the little foothill. And I had to start with those ones and start and work up and what have you. But I was quite pleased with myself when I could. Before they let me out of the hospital, I had to show them that I could get out of my bed, stand up, turn around, and sit down on the commode and I remember there was one occupational therapist, and I still remember her voice, and she said, "Right, okay, you've got to get your to go to the toilet, you've got to remove or at least lower your pajama bottoms and your knickers and whatever." So she said, "Use your thumb, she said, front, side, back, front, side, back." The number of pairs of pants that I put my thumb through the seam because I've been trying to kind of wear down, or back up again, hoik them back up again. Upside back, straight through the seam. But they were very diligent to make sure that I could do what sounds like a simple task of, being able to go to the toilet by yourself and get back into bed safely. They were extremely diligent to make sure that I could do that before I was allowed home. But what they didn't warn me about was how heavy fridge doors are when they're full of cartons of milk, because I like a little bit of chocolate and a glass of milk at night time. It's my little treat to myself at the end of the day. And there was one night when this chocolate in the fridge was just shouting at me, and I had to get out of bed to go and get the chocolate from the fridge. Everybody else was in bed, so I'm trying to sneak out of bed with my stick as quietly as I could, clunk, clunk, clunk through to the kitchen. And the chocolate shouting at me in the fridge. So I opened up the fridge door to get the chocolate out, and in the door there were like 3 large cartons of milk, which are obviously quite heavy. So the fridge door opened up very quickly with this milk, hit me, and I immediately fell backwards and hit my head on the wall, made a big hole in the wall. I mean, again, lucky that I didn't do myself any damage. But nowadays, my husband, he brings me my chocolate and milk once I'm in bed, so there's no chance of me getting out at night. I think he might put a lock on the fridge so that I don't do any damage. So but that's one of my ethos every day, is to get out, to wake up in the morning. And every morning you sort of think, I've got that to climb that blooming mountain again today. I climbed it yesterday, but I've got to climb it again today. So my ethos is to get through the day without injuring myself, injuring or upsetting anybody else, and without damaging any furniture or making holes in walls. So that's how I try and get through my day. But it's every day it seems like the same mountain to climb, and every day you hope to get, just that inch further. That's all that you need to do, so you can go to bed at the end of the day and pat yourself in the back and say, you got that inch further today. Okay, you're going to have to start at the bottom again tomorrow, but you get another inch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So you've just always got to have something to aim for, but don't make it big. Like in your previous ones, like I used to do 10k runs or the London to Brighton cycle ride and stuff like that, but they were hard tasks back then, but they were realistic. But I can't set that sort of goal now, and have to understand that I can't set that sort of goal now. Just being able to open the fridge door without knocking myself out is
as long as you have your chocolate, that's all that matters.
Indeed.
Well, that's it. It's quite true about goals. You've got to be realistic about goals, and it's getting used to the new you and what you can do, and taking each day as it comes. I think each day is a new day, and I think if having a stroke's taught us all anything, it's you never know what each day is going to bring. So you've just got to get up and think positive, hopefully at the start of a day, and see how it goes. See how much chocolate you can get hold of.
I've got Easter coming up, so I should be fine.
Chocolate makes the world go round. Definitely.
I don't know if it's a post-stroke thing. I was never a huge fan of chocolate before, but it's almost like a little reward at the end of the day or something like that. But because I just lie in bed and well, I spent the first 18 months sleeping on a hospital bed in our lounge because I couldn't get upstairs to my bedroom. And so I would just lie there with the TV on, and really, really bad all night, and just watching rubbish on TV all night. So it was always quite nice to have a bit of chocolate and what have you. But while I was watching the stock markets on Bloomberg or something.
Oh,
So,
crikey. You
well,
definitely need chocolate.
I've made some good investments. So not having to sit and watch TV, but having the TV in the bedroom. But in saying that, I have to be quite careful what I watch and what I listen to, so that I don't get myself, too emotional about anything. So I almost have to vet what I'm watching and what I'm listening to. 'Cause I listen to the radio most of the time actually, and I can often be found screaming at the radio or like telling them they don't know what they're talking about, and if they start talking about getting hospital appointments and things like that, I just shout at the radio and say, and you can't blame it all on COVID, because that's a few of us on different strokes say, yeah, mine was a COVID stroke as well. So, we're still trying to catch up on all the extra treatments that we should have had that we couldn't have because of COVID. But I just think it's really important, and this is why different strokes is so important to me. For people to be able to talk to each other, especially. I've grown up a little bit now. I'm 55 now, but I still consider myself to be young. For younger people to be able to talk, and it breaks my heart when I see some of the people that are, their 20s and 30s, and they've got young children as well. I mean, my boys are both in their 20s now, so they're supposed to be all grown up, and but I still wonder how much knowledge they got or were given, or how much they asked about how to deal with the mother. I actually, when I was first discharged, my mum's got a timeshare cottage up on the west coast of Scotland, and after I was partying for my anniversary with my husband, we were going to go up to the timeshare cottage, and lots of people were saying to me, "That's going to be too much. The journey's too much," and again, it's another house for you to get used to. And I'm thinking, what on earth do you know? Why are you telling me this? If I want to go, I'm going to go. And so we went, and but I was a bit apprehensive about because my mother hadn't seen me since the stroke. My two sisters had seen me, but again, it's COVID. So I was speaking to them through a glass window, and so they couldn't really see my disability and what have you. And so I ended up writing an instruction manual for me, Kirsty Radley instruction manual version September 2020. So I just gave them all a few pointers about, apparently I've got some problems with my left peripheral vision. So I was saying to them, if I'm walking around the house, if it, be aware that I might not be able to see properly something on the left hand side. So you maybe just direct me somewhere else, or just vocally tell me, watch your left or something. And I also mentioned about the emotional ability, so the fact that I might, without reason, burst into tears or even start laughing uncontrollably about something that might be unfortunate happening to somebody else, but I suddenly find absolutely hilarious. It might be inappropriate, but just I haven't done it intentionally. So I wrote all this out in my instruction manual. And also about the fact that in theory, there's a chance of me being epileptic now as well. So I wrote them a little bit about how to deal with me if I had an epileptic fit. And so I've got my instruction manual. So I need to keep updating it and handing it out. This is how to deal with me. Just keep me away from the chocolate.
It's a good idea, especially for family and friends that might not see you very often, and it saves you having to try and explain it in person. If they can read it in their own time and deal with it how they need to deal with it in whatever way, it might,
and not feel embarrassed about
yeah,
asking questions either. that's what I said in it. You know, if any questions, you know, please just ask me. The idea, I can't take the credit for the idea all by myself. It was actually from my speech and language therapist, because I was so determined that I was going to get back to work. And she said, apparently I was speaking quite quietly at the time, and again forgetting to breathe sometimes. So she said, right, we were in the gym, and she said, right, imagine you've got two, this is your swimming pool, and you've got two pupils. The one up there has misbehaved. I want you to raise your voice, and you're not in an angry, but able to project your voice with intonation as well to reprimand that child. But this child down here has done very well. So you have to be able to praise this child and temper your tone to show praise to that child. So she was getting me to use my voice a lot. And so I think she then came up with this idea. So she made me write it out, and then I had to read it out to several members of staff as well, and get some intonation and remember where to breathe, and accept questions from them as well, which was the whole thing was very beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's coming to terms with who you are and what you can do, and everything's changed, so you feel everything has to change, but it doesn't. You know, there's still things you need to do, like you know, with this speech, with projecting your voice or being gentle and what have you. But there's so much to get to terms with, isn't there? There's so much to take in that you know just happened in the snap of the fingers. You know, it's
like you have all these you know, things going on in your mind as well. The physio said to me when I had to go back to Epsom General Hospital, the nurses then, I was allowed to get out of bed and go to the toilet by myself, but I had a little ideas in my head about how I had to do it. So with my stick, I had to plant my stick and then move my left foot, and then get my weight to my left foot and stand up, and then move my right foot. So I would go along the corridor saying, stick, left, weight, stand up, breathe, right foot, stick, left foot, weight, stand up, breathe, right foot. And they said we could hear you going down the corridor, so we felt safe. We could just listen, you know, and we would know that you were safe because you were in your rhythm going down the corridor. And so I've managed to get rid of actually saying that mantra, but in a sense it's still going on in here. Whenever I walk, I need to concentrate on what I'm doing, and I'm trying to get my left arm working as well, but I can't walk and try and think about maneuvering my left arm, you know, say swinging my left arm as normal people would when they walk, because that's just too much to think about. I have to concentrate on my walking. And a couple of months ago, my youngest son and my younger sister were visiting, and we went out for a walk together, and I was using my single prong as opposed to my quad stick, and we did quite a lengthy walk. And so my sister said to my son, how do you think Mum did? Because my sister hadn't seen me walking, but my son had. And so my son said, yes, Mum did really well walking with a single prong stick. I think she's done really well. And he said, but actually, he said, what impressed me more than the walking with a single prong stick, Auntie Moore, was the fact that she was talking to you all the time that she was walking. She was having a conversation as well. He said, I've never seen her do that before, because she's always thinking about the actual walking. And so he said that was the most impressive bit for me, the fact that she was talking and walking.
So we can get that multitasking back then. That's one of the hardest.
Segregate things. Yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things, is especially as females, we're so used to multitasking before our stroke, especially if you've got boys to look after. I know that one. You know, that when a stroke comes along, you've got to concentrate on one thing and one thing only at a time. So to put an extra thing in is a big plus. So well done him for noticing that, and you know, well done you as well.
They were yeah, he was impressed with that. But my sister was saying, yeah, she's yeah, I'm just really pleased that Kirsty is still, you know, able to have a conversation, what have you, because she'd been doing some questioning at work and what have you, and they'd been saying to my sister, you know, is your sister able to talk? You know, can she hold a conversation? Can she concentrate on a conversation? My sister was laughing and said, "Well, it would be really serious. I'd be really worried if Kirsty wasn't able to have a conversation anymore." She's, you know, she said, you know, she's lucky on that side. You know, she can still yak away the same as she used to. So that was a plus for her. So, but she hasn't told me to shut up yet. But I'm just waiting for it.
The love siblings have for each other is brilliant, isn't it? Well, thank you. Sorry, go on.
I remember one of the consultants in the hospital, I don't know what I said to him, but he said to me, he said, "This probably isn't going to sound like very much, Kirsty." He said, "But, you know, we've been talking away." I think I was on a trolley at the time, and I think he was quite dishy, actually. And we were chatting away and laughing together. And he said, "This isn't going to sound like very much to you just now, Kirsty." He said, "But you've obviously still retained your sense of humour." And he said, "It won't sound like much to you now." He said, "But that is really important." He said, that you can converse and continue with a sense of humour. He said, "That's a really important sign just now." This was only, you know, quite soon afterwards, or, you know, a couple of weeks afterwards. So
Yeah.
that was encouraging, that he thought I was still got a sense of humour.
Well, it's little things like that that, you know, give you hope and everything, because sometimes, you know, people don't say a lot of things. It's like, you know, you were saying earlier that sometimes things weren't communicated to you and everything. So any little thing that is a bonus. And like you were saying earlier, that must have felt like you'd reached the top of Mount Everest kind of thing, you know, when he said that.
And also he actually realized, because he, you know, started off by saying, "This might not seem like much, but, you know, the fact that you have still got a sense of humor and you can communicate a sense of humor," he said, "that is very important." So I think it was the way they explained it to me as well, that
Yes.
you know, that made me feel quite fat. And they had gorgeous blue eyes as well. You know, that all helped.
So what we found out about Kirsty today, she likes chocolate. There's a brilliant cocktail bar in one of the hospitals down south. And you like gorgeous blue eyes.
That's me in a nutshell, Sheelagh. There's not much more you need to know, apart from the fact that I can't wave with my left hand, but I'm practicing. That's the clone set in now. It's not waving, it's just doing clones.
But don't say it loudly, because it's listening. Your left arm's listening, and you're not allowed to say negative things about your left arm.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us today, Kirsty. I love the story about the chocolate. That is me all over, trying to, when you think you can get to the fridge quietly, in my case, and I bang into everything and trip over the dogs and what have you, but it's got to be done for a bit of chocolate. What more can I say? All right, thanks again, Kirsty. Bye.
Okay, cheers, bye. Thanks, Sheelagh. Bye.